I remember the first time I saw Emily with her long chestnut brown straight hair and big brown eyes. Without even knowing her, she seemed to exude brightness and warmth. We met at a book club, a feminist book club, which in my opinion is one of the most romantic places you can meet somebody. I found Emily to be the most incredible book club member. She had some of the most astute observations about some of the books we all read together. And she even made an incredible suggestion for a book to read, a book of poetry. I had never really been into poetry before, by a non-binary author named Andrea, sometimes Andrew, Gibson. Now, at the time, I definitely felt the tiniest glimmers of what I called admiration for Emily. But at the time, I was also in the middle of a job search, and I was trying to figure out a few other things in my life, and my focus was decidedly elsewhere. One day in early January 2020, a member of our book club suggested that we go dancing, as in take our book club to the club club. A bit of an out-of-character switch-up for sure, but I like dancing, and it was a queer night, so I agreed to go. In the days leading up to the event, one by one, each of our book club members drops out, until it was just me and Emily and the organizer. And then Emily and I arrive at the club, and the organizer suddenly drops as well. So it just became me and this wonderful, admirable person. Now, this is a club, so the line to get in was an hour and a half long. At this point, it is February, and it's freezing. But I found I didn't mind the cold, because Emily and I spent the entire time talking. I learned that she's a scientist, a successful one at that, who had completed both a PhD and a postdoc at Harvard and was founding her own biotech company. I learned that she was relentlessly strategic. She had taught herself how to play Magic the Gathering in order to better network with her nerdier male colleagues. Now, we get into the club, and I order us each a beer and a shot of tequila because when in club. And I have to say, before this experience, I didn't have any intention of kissing Emily. She was a book clubber. In my world, feminist book clubbers do not kiss other feminist book clubbers. When we all got together talking about whatever we read, it was such a cerebral academic experience that I was able to ignore matters of the heart. But after the beer and the shot of tequila, I now wanted to kiss Emily, and they wanted to kiss me back. The next morning, I wake up to a text message. Hey, Jack, last night was super fun, but we could just chalk up what happened to the tequila and we could go back to being friends. I reply, we could do that. I also happen to have 2 tickets to go see Andrew Gibson next week, the poet you recommended for the book club, and I'd like to go with you. Now, that's a little bit of a lie. You see, I had known about this event for a month and thought about picking up tickets, but hesitated and the show was sold out. But there was a wait list, and the idea of going with Emily made me feel optimistic. She replies, why don't we go as friends and we'll see where this goes. The next day, I get an email letting me know I'm off the wait list. I pick up the tickets and I feel excited. I'm going to be able to see this poet with Emily. The night of the poetry reading rolls around, and I'm sitting at the bar outside of the venue, getting increasingly nervous. I feel very out of my element. I'd spent the better part of the last 10 years reading nonfiction and webcomics. Poetry is not my domain. And this person is a Harvard-educated scientist. At the time, I was just a barista, hoping for my user research portfolio to catch on somewhere. Emily shows, and we don't kiss. We simply say hello. We go find our seats, and within moments, the poet takes the stage. They walk up to the microphone, and they simply announce, tonight is a night about love. It was literally titled, Right Now, I Love You Forever. The poet is launching into a poem about their partner, and I feel the tension in the room skyrocket. This is either about to be the most awkward experience of my life or the most romantic. I'm desperately trying to not look at Emily, fearing that I would pop. Instead, I look all around the room, and all I see are couples and friend groups and retrospect polycules everywhere, holding each other. The only anomaly in the room is this woman seated across from me and Emily with a conspicuously empty chair next to her. I almost feel envious of that empty chair. At least there was an answer, a sign that things didn't work out and one could grieve and move on and not be at a poetry reading with a friend feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Suddenly I look down, and placed very prominently on the seat next to me, I see that Emily has laid out her hand, clearly to hold. I take a sigh of relief, and I take her hand, and I pause. The poet is speaking. My heart is thudding so loud in my chest, I can barely make out the words. And yet, I can understand what they mean, even in my body. I put my arm around Emily. She puts her head on my chest. And together, we have one of the most romantic evenings. There was a lot of things that happened in the story that felt very convenient. The surprise tickets to the February 10th date of this poetry reading, the long line in the cold, and even the way that everyone dropped out. It almost felt like fate. But I can say that the best decision made was Emily's choice to hold my hand and my own to take hers. Thank you.